President Trump has maximum negotiating leverage right here, right now. And I think it would be a mistake for anyone to think otherwise. And as I said, many of our trading partners, they have queued up and they have kept their cool. They have not escalated, and they will get priority in the queue. I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation, because they're playing with a pair of twos. Traditionally, if you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
When billionaires say things like, what do we have to lose in an escalating trade war? They're talking strictly about themselves, as usual. They're not thinking about the obvious increase in the price of everyday goods that they can afford going up. But this billionaire cabinet member is focused on forcing the will of the rest of the world more than anything else.
I don't know if you heard Art Laffer in the prior interview, but Art doesn't believe that the trade deficit should be a metric. I don't really either. I mean, Mr. Secretary, if you get your tax cuts, and I guess you're well on the way, you get your deregulation. These are all huge pro-growth items. Okay. We will grow, the United States, will grow faster than Japan. We will grow faster than almost anybody. Therefore, almost by definition, by growing faster than the rest of the world, we're always going to have a trade deficit. So I don't know why you'd want to use the trade deficit in a calculation for a reciprocal charge. But to apply this to the whole world on the basis of trade deficits, is that really the best in your judgment?
I think we're going to have very, very productive negotiations with these. And, again, as you said on tariffs, or as you said on taxes, Larry, the real problem has been these barriers, because what we are going to create in the U.S. through lower taxes, energy dominance, and our deregulation, our rule of law, is going to be, we are the best place in the world to do business, and we will continue to attract more and more industry here when these barriers come down. I am highly confident of that.
There's never a mention of how Trump's trade war will hurt regular Americans to degrees that they can't imagine or simply just don't care about. Their objective is to get more foreign companies to manufacture in America to avoid these cartoonish tariffs that were calculated by a sixth grader. It's not about the tariffs or their effects. It's about making billionaires even more money under the guise of creating jobs with desperate Americans looking for the scraps. The kind of scenario where they can have even more control.
I am a Republican. I am a supporter of Donald Trump, but this is a bipartisan problem. I don't care if the president is a Republican or a Democrat. I don't want to live under emergency rule. I don't want to live where my representatives cannot speak for me and have a check and balance on power. One person can make a mistake. And guess what? Tariffs are a terrible mistake. They don't work. They will lead to higher prices. They are a tax, and they have historically been bad for our economy. But even if this were something that was magic and was going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, I wouldn't want to live under emergency rule. I would want to live in a constitutional republic where there are checks and balances against the excesses of both sides, right or left.
Rand Paul doesn't want to live under emergency rule. He wants to live in a constitutional republic, but he's a Trump supporter. Well, did he pay any attention during the campaign when the guy he supports said he'd disregard the Constitution, said he wants to be a dictator, and repeatedly barked about how little he understood about the effects of tariffs on the economy? Everything Rand Paul supported during the campaign doesn't add up to what he's now saying he'd like for the country.
What's the rationale for getting behind this? Well, one, we should not live under emergency rule. The Constitution said taxes are raised by Congress. Most specifically, taxes originate in the House and come to the Senate. So I'm against emergency rule. But on the tariffs in particular, on the idea of trade, trade is proportional to wealth. The last 70 years of international trade has been an exponential curve upwards, and the last 70 years of prosperity has been upwards also. We are richer because of trade with Canada, and so is Canada. Whenever you trade trade with somebody, when an individual buys somebody else's product, it's mutually beneficial or you wouldn't buy it. If the trade is voluntary, it's always beneficial. There is no Canada versus the U.S. The consumer wins when the price is the lowest price. Tariffs raise prices and they're a bad idea for the economy.
Maybe in a week or two, Rand Paul will realize that Trump's purposeful creation of a desperate situation for regular Americans for the sake of enriching himself and his cabinet full of billionaires has never been about the American people. He just fed gullible supporters populism, only to turn around and implement the plan of an abuse of power and overreach of the executive that's enhanced by a huge transfer of even more wealth to the richest. He's inviting even more oligarchs to come exploit American workers for pennies, while telling the people that they're going to get rich by doing everything that he says. And in the process, he's got the perfect lemming in Congress to hand over as much power to him as possible.
But Mr. Speaker, there's a push by some of your members to give Congress a say. Don Bacon has a bill to give Congress a say and review the tariffs. Why not give Congress the opportunity to have it be a check on the president?
Congress will weigh in on it, but with the president, with the administration in tandem, and I think you got to give the president the latitude, the runway to do what it is he was elected to do, and that is get this economy going again and get our trade properly balanced with other countries. So I think most of the American people understand the necessity of that. Listen, we had a $1.2 trillion trade deficit in 2024. I don't think that's fair to our country. I think the American people understand that, and I think they see a president who's engaging and trying to fix that. So we're going to give him the space necessary to do it, and we'll see how it all develops.
Do you think Trump administration officials should brief members? I mean, some of your members are asking for a briefing at the very least to understand the strategy.
His office is directly engaged with members, and we'll have it.
For some reason, it's not alarming to hear the Speaker of the House unilaterally release all the power Congress has over the executive with the same lame excuse that he was elected president. No one asks why he thinks being elected president gives Trump power over the other branches of government. I mean, he's already ignoring the courts and has yes-men in Congress that don't feel the need to represent their constituents. So if the economy is destroyed, that's probably part of the plan. I mean, the president doesn't even care enough about accountability to come up with a lie that isn't completely obvious because he's a fascist.
Sir, have you talked to any tech leaders over the weekend about the tariffs?
Yeah, I talked to the biggest in the world. I talked to the biggest of them all, many of them. But I've talked to, I would say 4 or 5 that are considered the biggest. They don't, you know what they said? We don't blame you.
Who did you talk to?
I don't want to say. I'll put it out. I may give it to you.
NVIDIA CEO?
I have to find out if they mind. I don't know if that was a confidential call or not, but we had 5 or 6.
I think this is the biggest policy mistake in 95 years. And what is interesting is on the Republican Senate's website. So if you go to senate.gov and look up tariffs, this is what they say. It was on June 13th, 1930, that the Senate passed the Smoot-Hawley tariff, describing it as among the most catastrophic acts in congressional history. And then it goes on saying the results were, and to use their words, disastrous. So disastrous that the American public voted the Republicans out of the House, the Senate, and the presidency 2 years later.